Hey, Tim Edwards in Dallas here. Going to go over a really quick topic called the killer questions. It's really critical because think about it. Why do most people avoid prospecting somebody? Most of the time it's because they're afraid that they'll get asked some questions that they don't know the answer to. So if you can get people comfortable in certain areas, a lot more people will step outside their comfort zone. They'll prospect other people, and as you probably know, that's the key to your team's success. And before I get into the detail of this topic, for you guys that love structure like I do, here's how 100% of your engagements or your situations where you're going to prospect people, whether it's online or offline, must go. First off, of course, especially with Facebook and things, your image should be credible. You must engage people and control the conversation, and then you're going to have to ask a prospecting question, which I'll break all of these down in a really simple way. Now, briefly, think about this. Any manager of an athlete, any agent of a Hollywood star, even a CEO of a company will tell you, image and credibility, which ultimately ends up being your brand, right? It's everything. Whatever you appear to be will actually label you, whether that's good or bad. So the appearance right out of the gate is really important. So and the cool thing about this, especially with Facebook, most of you guys are Facebook prospectors, is that you can control that image, right? Until you've made substantial money, maybe millions of dollars, you've got to at least look credible, right? And that's simple because it's your Facebook page. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have a nice cover photo. You've got a nice profile picture of you, not some logo, and and don't be cheesy and put cash on the page, right? Have something in the about section that lends itself to you being in business. Now, once you're established, obviously you'll have a page full of content that shows that you're a marketer or into building an online business, so that kind of speaks for itself. But in the beginning, you can put something up there that states that you have an online business so that they kind of know that at the first glance. I'm not going to go into any more detail about this because that's a topic for a later time. We've got to jump into the killer questions. So now, what I mean by killer questions is this. If you can't control the questions, right, it kills your chances, meaning you won't enroll very many people. So on the flip side, also if you can learn the psychology of how to ask killer questions to your prospects, they will follow your lead, and that's how you control the conversation. So the first thing you have to do is know about the questions that you have to ask, to control the conversation, meaning if somebody asks you a question and you just answer, they'll ask you another question, you'll answer, and another question, you'll answer. See, they've got control of the conversation. You can't allow that to happen because if you're not in control of the conversation, you will eventually get backed up into a corner and they'll ask you something that's either too tough for you, you don't know the answer to it, and again, you've killed your chances. So the first tip I can give you is always, always, always remember you do a comment and then a question, not just answer a question. I'm going to give you some examples here. So if they ask, what do? You answer, this can vary, right, depending on the outcome that you want. So instead of saying I'm with X company or I represent X product, have you heard of it? That's what typically most people do. I think that's kind of I'm not going to make a comment about that. But that's how most people describe what they do. But all that does really is it puts you in a group of a zillion people that do that, right? And that answer also has no description of what you can really do for them. So except that you're just one of those in one of those things, right? So your answer should describe what you do. Something like I'm an entrepreneur specializing in blank. Now you can put online business, building electronic income, internet entrepreneur, whatever it might be. I like those type of terms because they're generic. And then also at the end of that statement, again, you ask a question, right? So it's comment, a question. Then I would say something like, what are you focused on these days? So again, here's the deal. You've got your professional look on your profile, right? And and your answer states, kind of what you can do for them, right, and how it works. And again, it says that you're an entrepreneur and you specialize. So everything you've said sends a message to that prospect's brain that you are credible, and also you've asked a question. What are you focused on these days? So you've got control of the conversation. And now when they answer what they do, again, you can then ask another question, and then they answer, so now you've got control. Make sense? Now, when they answer, I do X, whatever their answer is, you want to ask something like, oh, that's cool, that's great, how long have you done that? Not, how do you like it? Because, everybody says, when you ask how do you like it, everybody goes, oh, I love it, it's great, and they could have made $10 last month, right? And so they're sort of falsely reinforcing that they love something, and the brain, whatever you tell your brain, that's the way it is. So if they're saying, if you're asking questions and everything they say is, I love it, it's this, I love it, it's awesome, the door's never going to open for you to prospect them, right? And honestly, most people aren't really in love with what they do. They're trying to stay excited, they're trying to be positive, and they're hoping it pans out. So when they answer what they're focused on, ask, how long have you done that? Right? So they come, what are you focused on these days, and how long have you done that? Right? So those are two questions where you've got control, and the outcome is not going to be a false pump-up kind of thing. Okay, and if it's a long time, what does that do? Right? If they've had no results, they've been doing it for quite a while, it makes them think. Right? You know how it is. If you've ever been asked that question, how long have you been doing it? If you've been doing it a while and you haven't got results, you're going like, oh, here we go. Right? So this puts you in a position to open up the door of frustration. Right? Not the false joy that they've been programmed to say. Now, also, don't ask, how's it going? Because, again, most are going to say, oh, it's great. Yeah, it's great. And again, they could have made $10 last month. So ask this, which is totally different. Say, how are your results so far? See how different that is? Not how's it going? That's great. How are your results so far? That makes them focus on something totally different. It's hard to dodge that question because results are results, right? So it makes them think, again, when they answer, it's usually something like, well, it's been a while, or I'm doing my best, I've had some success, or I'm doing it, it's not going that great. So this is where again, this is what I call door opening. Right? These questions are very specific in their verbiage, and they get the outcome that you want, and a lot of times it will open the door to somebody where you can actually prospect them. The other questions just get that, oh, it's great, the door's closed. Now, ask something like this. What is the one thing that you think would help you most in your business right now? Or what area do you most want to see your team improve on? And I'll see if I can help. See how that works? Then, of course, now you have, you've got the opening that you might be able to get an appointment, because what happens here is you've simply become the solution to those specific problems, right? That make sense? Or I'm going to show you how to be the solution to those problems. So that's how you control the conversation and the questions, and also how to ask killer questions to get them in a position so that you can actually prospect that person. If you say, as I mentioned, we specialize in online businesses, are you open to a solution to building your business better on Facebook? Let's say that they said that was their problem, right? So I specialize, or we specialize. See, if you're not comfortable with I, right, this is where your mentor, your upline comes into play. You can always say we specialize. So a lot of people they're weirded out about their confidence right there. They can't say I because they feel I'm not a specialist, right? So always refer to we because you're not in it by yourself, right? You got your upline or hopefully a mentor, right? So let's say that you want to say we. We specialize in building online businesses. Are you open to a solution, to help you grow your business faster on Facebook, which was their problem, right? So you, or as I said, you can say you, we, depending on what your deal is there. So what you've done there is you've identified a specific problem and you've now become a solution. And then immediately ask the question, with all the right elements, right, where you control the conversation. And all I tell my reps to do is I say, look, when can we talk for 5 minutes to see if we can help you? Right. So again, you specialized in this area, online business. You've identified the problem. You said, hey, if we can help you with a solution. Are you open-minded to see if we can help you? When can we talk for 5 minutes to see what we can do to help? See, that's the sequence that you get into an engagement where you get to a prospecting question. But you only get to the prospecting question if you've asked the right questions before, right? Kept control. Now, what will it cost me? You can say, well, let me ask you a question. If your goal is to make X, right? Let's say you fill in the blank, right? If your goal is to make blank, and you put that number in your mind, whatever you want, in the blank, right? That's in your mind. What is it worth to you, right? Meaning if you knew for certain we could help you make that number, is it worth a few minutes of your time to find out how we can help? If they can't say yes to that question, not a good prospect. Keep moving. That's really simple right there. Now, how long would it take to succeed? Now, I'd say something like, we have people who do it very quickly. Some people it takes, a few years to get there. But let me ask you a question. How long are you willing to go for your dreams and your goals before you're willing to throw them in the trash? I'm just curious. You see, nobody wants to throw their dreams and their goals in the trash. Also, if you ask that question, you've also controlled the outcome. And as I've said many times, when you understand the psychology of the business is easy because we're basically in our own way. We're our own worst enemy. When you can turn the tables and you can actually show a person how to properly think, they follow you, and a lot of them join. So how much are you making? This is a rough one, right? Because when you're new in the business, everybody asks you when it's awkward, right? And you're not making any money, and later when you're making a bunch, they never ask you. Which also tells you as you get more confidence and more success in the business, a whole bunch of this stuff goes away. Because you only get questions when you kind of send out a signal of uncertainty, right? When you have certainty, most of the stuff goes away. But here's how you can actually deal with this, and this is also why a mentor is critical because, there's some questions that you have to, again, like we talked about earlier, the we part, right, we specialize in. There's some situations where you have to refer to your mentor's credibility until you have your own. So, here's how you construct it so it's credible. Let's say the leader that you work with got to the top of your company, your pay plan, let's say 3 years, right? And let's say they've helped a lot of people do the same, right? So your answer would be something like, the guy I work with daily reached the top in 3 years and helped a lot of others do the same thing, right? He's made, let's say, $1 million is what your sponsors or your uplines made. So you say, the guy or gal I work with reached the top in 3 years, helped a lot of others do the same, and he's made 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, and I'm on track to do the same thing. With our help, how quickly do you think you could do it? Now, a couple things happen here. First off, you refer to somebody else's credibility because you don't have yours yet, right? That's your upline and your mentor. And also, you've shown that others have done it, right? That's credible, and that you're on track to do the same, right? So it kind of takes the focus off of you. Now, if they're a wise guy, the question that when you ask, how fast do you think you could do it, it kind of stumps them. If they're for real, they typically give you an answer. Hey, I think I could do it in 3 years, right? So when they say something like, when they put themselves in a statement like that says, I think I can do it in 3 years, or let's just say hypothetically that I joined, anything like that where they're putting themselves in the place, it sounds like they're doing the business. Just know in any business, real estate, whatever, that's a buying sign, right? They've already put themselves in the place that they're doing the business with you, so that should give you confidence. Now, this is not a question, but it's a common objection, so I want to help you with it because it happens quite a bit. You ever have somebody say, well, I just don't have time. Here's what I say. Let me ask you a question. If you could do what you're doing right now, an extra hour a day for the next 3 to 5 years, and retire with more income than you have now, would you do it? I've never, ever had a no to that question. It's always a yes, right? So what does this do? Mine. So what happens then is I say, then you have time, right? So I ask that question, I say, then you have time. The difference is that you have no leverage, which means you will never have the time to do the things you really love. Is it worth 5 minutes to see how we can help you? See, so what I've taken a person who doesn't have time, I've opened their mind up that they do have time. That's not really the issue. They would work an extra hour a day if they knew they could retire. And now you're telling them the reason you don't have time is you have no leverage. And that will never change. You'll never get to do the things you love. And so now you've hit a little pain button, and then you ask them, is it worth 5 minutes to see how we can help you? So there's your appointment. That's your prospecting question, right? Now, if you're a little overwhelmed, keeping up with all the answers, here's a solution that I came up with, for the people that just want really simple, right? And this is what I gave my team that we used on a regular basis to recruit, 30,000 people in my previous program. It was called the answer to any question. So if you love to keep it simple, here's what you do, right? Right. The only thing you have to say is just one answer for whatever the question is. You just say, Bob or Sue, let's say it's Bob, right? Bob, why don't you review the information? It will help you formulate your questions so we can better help you, okay? Then, of course, You can give them your site, you can give them your capture page, you can give them your video, that explains what you do. And you're off the hook. So, what's cool about this particular statement is that if you have 100 different questions, there can be 100, totally different questions. If you say that statement with confidence, 99% of the time it will work. It'll blow your mind. When you use it, you'll say that and they go, okay, why does this happen? Think about this for a second, the psychology again. Why this ends up happening is that when at the end you say, so we can better help you, right? So you're not a salesperson now. And so you're helping them. And then what's the last word? Okay? That's a question, even though it's one word. So we can better help you. Okay? See, so what happens there is that you've gone from a salesperson to a person that helps them. You've asked a question, and what's the normal response? You answer. You don't ask another question. Right? So you'll be absolutely blown away when you use this because it works and it's so freaking simple. So remember the structure. Image should be credible, right? Your Facebook page, get it straight. Engage and control the conversation. When you make a comment, always ask a question immediately after so you stay in control. And always, always, always ask the prospecting question. If you don't ask the prospecting question, your business will never grow. Engaging and following people and just shooting the bull with them is never going to grow your business. You got to ask the prospecting question.